Welcome, Dr. Stephen Hobbs here. It's Thursday, and this is Perspective Day within the movement. And what I'm going to do is share with you some insights about Legacy Decoded. It's a platform program that I have available, but it's also something I think would be of value to you, even if you don't get involved with me. And I'm going to share with you five core elements of Legacy Decoded. You might call them names. You could call yourself each one of these at some point in your life. And this is certainly for the grandparents and those who are 55 plus years young and looking for what's going to happen as you move through your 60 plus year door. With that, I'm just going to remind you, please subscribe, ring the bell so that you get notifications of what's coming up, and also comment, like, share. I appreciate hearing from you and learning from you, and we can continue the conversation through that means. So with that, let's jump into it, and you'll notice Legacy Decoded here. And Legacy, I shot a video last week, and I'll put the link up in and around the video so that you can watch it if you'd like, and it defines legacy and the branches that are associated with it. But just as a reminder in this video, legacy is about the useful what's that you gift others so that they might learn something from your lived experience. And in there, the useful what's are the use of your time, effort, and money, because that's what you can tie your legacy back to. Now, you'll notice the word decoded here. Now, this is kind of an interesting one, is that if you go into the marketing language, you're always looking for ways in which to offer a little bit of mystery to what's coming out and what you make available. And decoded was one of the words, and I chose it over something like legacy system or legacy blueprint, because those are elements of legacy decoded from a whole. So I'd like to share with you three ways of looking at the word decoded. And the first one is to convert a message so you can make sense of it. So someone says you a coded message. For those of you who might remember the Morse code, and for those of you who understand, you know, in some science fiction books, fantasy books, they'll put codes in there and you've got to decipher them and figure out what's going on. That's decoding. And therefore, there's something about legacy that is important to decode for yourself. And I actually wrote a book called Elder, and it will be out soon. I'm going to explain a little bit more about that as we move into the boxes section of this diagram. But right now, convert a message to make sense of it, to give it an intelligent form is another way of looking at it. The next way of looking at decoded is to recognize and interpret a signal. Now, in this case, it might be an electronic signal. So those big telescopes that we find on the mountains listening into the universe, there are signals out there and they're bringing them in and then they're decoding what those signals might be about. And we also are looking into our life. There are signals coming in through newscasts or conversations. There's signals that are coming in. Some of them may be electronic, some of them might be in word of mouth. And what we're doing is we're going to recognize and interpret them. In other words, decode those messages coming in that form. Another way of looking at decoded is discover the underlying meaning. Often there is a meaning underneath the surface of the message that has been sent. And I think of this as like when you go to an art show, paintings, and on the surface you can get a message, but yet if you stand and look, you might see something else. Maybe it's your imagination making it up, or the artist actually put some other kind of message in there. I kind of have fun with where's Waldo? They're a picture, and where's Waldo, that figure that you go looking for. So there is this notion to discover the underlying meaning. What is there? Decode it for yourself. And I think that when we get into 55 years plus and that lived experience that we have, and we want to gift it to others so that they can learn something, often there's a time of reflection that's needed to figure out what's the meaning that you give to your lived experience. Just as you're answering a question like, what's the meaning of my life? Often it's in the lived experience connected to an intention of how and why and with whom you want to interact. Who do you want to be with? And what do you want to do? What do you want to have in being for the world? So those are ways in which to look at decoded. So legacy decoded, I'm going to offer you a way in which to decode legacy for your life at this point in time. So there'll be convert what you know, recognize and interpret what other signals are out there coming to you, and actually discover the underlying message that you're picking up. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you the following, and it's connected to the 5 boxes that you see here. The first one that I'm going to share with you, the E, is about elder. Now, this is an interesting one, and I mentioned earlier, I've written a book called Elder, Inspired Practitioner. And this notion of elder is that I'm not attempting to replace this concept that I might be offering and the practices that I might be offering with the First Nations, Indigenous world around the world. The idea is that there are elders amongst us, and we can declare it as a way to move out of the word older to elder, move O to E. And I think it's a way in which to recognize in our own lives is that we have layers of something to offer to others. And the layers go with the capitalized E, is that there's like layers that are there, and there's this core sort of spine to that layers. That's how we form the E. Versus older, sometimes what we do is we take a look at the circle of life, and we find ourselves twisting around towards that which is the latter part of our life. I believe that there's another way to look at it, which is to layer it up, and that's why a difference between older and elder. I also think it's this notion of figuring out what you are as an inspired practitioner. From your legacy perspective, there are things from your lived experience or concepts and practices that you can gift others. And how might you figure out which of those you want to share? Now, some of you who are your 55 plus and grandparents, you still may be in the workplace. And therefore, there are ways in which you can share what you know with those who are up and coming in the organization. Just as there are ways in which to take a look at taking what you know now and monetizing it as an entrepreneur. So there's lots of ways of looking at this concept of elder, but again, not to replace the First Nations or the elder in a religious organization, more about declaring a space for yourself is that I acknowledge myself as an elder. And even if you can have a ceremony, even if it's only with your family and friends, to recognize at some point in time, you wish to declare yourself and identify with the term elder. And if there's anything I can do to help you with that, then please let me know. And also the book will be available, and I will be posting on the website, and you'll hear again in another video about the book. It's just about done. I just wanted to give you this story anyway today, but that book will be available in its version 1. And it would be called Elder Inspired Practitioner. The next one that I want to look at, it's almost like a progression, is that you can become a mentor. I think I'm hinting at that in terms of what is it that I can do, how can I do it, and sharing what I know and can do with those in the organization, or finding a way in which to monetize my lived experience. I could become a mentor. And the NE is for natural educator. Is that when you find that natural educator within that comes from your head, heart, and hands, the way in which to share what you know and can do with others, you have the potential of stepping into the world of mentor. Now, it's different than coach and instructor and trainer and other ways in which we do educating. And I know that I wrote a book about the 9 educating approaches. I'm now in the process of updating it to get to the 10 educating approaches and being able to distinguish between them so that it can help those of us who are moving into a legacy and sharing that legacy with others, is to understand what educating approach might be appropriate for the situation and to encourage learning. So mentor, natural educator is the next one in the sequence. Now I'm using the phrase natural educator is to find a way in which to be natural, is that when you share and where you share, it's from a natural place. It's not something that you've cooked up or masked up. You are actually naturally doing what you love. There was a phrase that I learned years and years ago. It says, education and educating is really about sharing what you love to know. And I thought that that was a really great one. And I believe that that certainly holds true for those of us, and I'm in there at 55 years young, looking at ways to share what we know with the world. The next one that I would offer to you is called Celebrant. Now, the Celebrant is coming from the place of celebration, and usually in small groups, like within the family and friends, versus the one where I might talk about the Weaver, which is talking about it from a community perspective. So with Celebrant, it's about finding ways in which to create and share through living extraordinary experiences. There are what are called good experiences, great experiences, memorable experiences, remarkable experiences, and then there's extraordinary experiences. And that's where a celebrant can come in, to be able to celebrate those experiences. And also to take a look at it from the perspective of with family and friends. Remember when you were going to declare yourself an elder and I suggested a ceremony, the celebrant as an elder mentor and you become a celebrant is to be able to create those ceremonies about what's happening in the family, but also for each person. There are many cultures who recognize young people hitting milestones. There are ways in which to look at the family from a milestones perspective and finding ways to celebrate, to appreciate what is happening in the family and with the friends. And therefore, the Weaver is about communities of significance. The Weaver is really about what I can do for a bigger community. Now, that community could be local, it could be along a journey, or it could be something that's big, a worldwide movement. And you have the opportunity as a weaver to use different kinds of skills to look at ways to bring others together, to unite them under a common cause, or to explore the possibilities and weave a community. I've been involved in both the Celebrant and Extraordinary experiences. My Celebrant role was around team development, working with organizations to get groups to understand about teams. And that's where I created one called GREAM, the connection between group and team. In other words, the group selects the best qualities of team that applies to the group, and they call themselves a GREAM. It was a celebration. I would do lots of outdoor activities. So a celebrant can do lots of nature-based activities. And this is great for the grandparents, remember? Also from the Weaver, I've done a lot of community development over the years and facilitated different kinds of conversations. I've worked on playgrounds when I first started off into my work world, and I would facilitate communities in figuring out what kind of playground they would like to have. And I've done it in Australia as I've done it in Canada. Another one of Weaver was that I worked with groups of Ethiopians who were looking at leadership development for a safety net program. And I was helping them to use some tools that they could work with in their community to get more ideas about how to take care of those in the communities rather than moving towards the cities. And I'm using the Celebrant Weaver together now in the work that I'm doing around trees and trees every day. And there's a Sunday video that I put out. Again, I'll put the link to where it is. And it's talking about different connections to trees. I'm doing a little bit of an overview at the moment, and then I'm going to get into the world of trees from an elder, mentor, celebrant, weaver perspective. So there's lots of ways that I'm doing it myself, and I will be setting up a program where you can progress through this, but I would so enjoy hearing from you if this is making sense, because if it is, then together we can figure out what's the best way to put this program together. Now, the next part that I would offer is the following. It is magnificent. Now, this is a little bit of a different word because I also understand in our lives, there is a word for the world that we carry in our heart, head, and hands. It's a word that if it was taken out of the dictionary, it was taken out of our lives, taken out of our conversations, we would have this hole in us. We would feel as though something was truly and deeply missing. And sometimes if we don't know what that is, we have that feeling. But when we find that word, it's oh so celebrational and so appreciative, and it sets up the communication with others that comes from this place of head, heart, and hands. And I will be offering a free course on looking at what is, or discovering, exploring your word for the world, and some information about what you can do with that word. I've run this workshop with people, and there's been some really great insights and ahas, and I hear back years later, people go, yeah, that word, and I figured it out, and it helped me even as an entrepreneur, helped me in my relationships, helped me even in the workplace. So magnificent comes from magnificence, which is my word for the world. And it's made up of magnificent and significance. And I join those two words together. You'll probably gather as you listen in on my videos, I enjoy playing with words. And therefore, magnificent was the one that I'm offering about a word for the world. But this area is really about your word. I'm just calling it magnificent at the moment. But when we get to the point of looking at these and you get to discover what yours is, then what you can do is write your own book. It could almost be like an autobiography. I'm going to be writing, actually, I'm probably going to write a couple. And one of them is called The Staff, the Stick, Two Wands, and Your Word for the World. And it's to give a little bit more background and tools about your word for the world. And then one of the books I'm going to write is going to be called Yikes, Stripes, and Zebra Spots. Again, it's a play based on the different things that I've done over my lifetime. I have had some interesting experiences. One, I was in Iran when they took the American embassy. I was driving through, and that was quite an experience. I have been taken out of the bush with a 50 caliber machine gun pointed at me. I have come close to saying goodbye to the world through car accidents and even a canoeing accident. So I'll be sharing those items along with all the celebrations the achievement of my doctorate and being able to write a thesis that I'm still waiting to actually implement because technology hasn't quite caught up to it. So I'm having fun celebrating that and working on that at this point in time. And celebrate the books that I have written. There's lots of things that I have shared with the world. And now with the ability to get these videos out more and more, I'm shooting and sharing more of these videos. And behind this whiteboard are boxes, Rubbermaid kind of boxes, those plastic boxes, just full of notes that I'm going to dig through and share with you in being able to bring my word, my magnificence to you and see if it's of value. And therefore, I've stepped into the world of elder. I don't consider myself older. I'm an elder. I certainly am involved in mentor, and I've created the international mentoring community, which is available to you as well if you're looking at certification and truly understanding and embodying this world of mentor. I call myself a facilitative mentor, and I can help you get to understanding that, but we can move through the international mentoring community to get there, and a link will be below or around this video. And the Celebrant and Weaver, continue to move those forward as well. You'll hear a lot more about them, but for the near future, you'll hear a lot more about Elder and Mentor, and I will be bringing Magnificant or Word for the World forward for you. So with that, I'm going to encourage you again to subscribe and to ring the bell so you get notifications of the next perspective video, and or even the everyday trees every day video that I shoot on Sunday and I post. I will be soon doing some of these live, and I will let you know when they are as well, because I think there's something about a live broadcast that's kind of fun, and I'll enjoy doing those with you. And that way we can get more into a question and answer. Again, comment, like, share. That would be just wonderful. I just so much like to be able to interact through the comments and the likes and the shares and see where we go, what's unfolding for us. And again, just remember from a decoded point of view, this legacy decoded is that there's this notion of converting the message into an intelligent form. A lot of times we're getting messages in through the TV and conversations, and it's to be able to convert those messages into what makes sense for you, that are intelligent for you. Just like there's lots of electronic signals coming in. And I mentioned, about the observatories on the mountains, but there are other ways to look at the signals. There are other energies that you might pick up through your intuition, and we'll explore some of those another time. And there's some really great guests that I can bring in to take a look at those as well. And at the same time is that what's around you and what you're working on, what you're reading, what you're watching, the paintings that you see, sometimes there's an underlying message. And what is it that you draw from that? What is the underlying message of your interactions every day? I still get amazed when I just sit back a little bit, do a little reflection on and in what has taken place over the last couple of days ago. Whoa, I didn't actually see that. It's sometimes what I call the background conversation. There's the foreground conversation, that's what's happening. But when you do that little reflective piece and you sit back, there's other meaning in there, that background conversation. And that's where a lot of insights and ideas come from, to be able to evolve your legacy, to live from your legacy, to live your extraordinary life, to be able to bring to those that you interact in being for the world, an understanding of what it means to be an elder, a mentor, celebrant, weaver. I use the word magnificent, but we'll find your word for you so that you can have that as a way in which to celebrate who you are and to be able to weave that into your interactions with others. So with that, take care.